Are you planning to submit a nomination for this year's Good Employment Awards?
Here are some top tips that could help shape your nomination. So this year, we're particularly interested in how you're managing ill health, how you're having those early conversations with people and enabling people to feel comfortable to share, how you're supporting people to stay in work as well, managing that through flexibility and reasonable adjustments and showing that, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Cover the full picture of well-being, so think of your physical, social, financial and mental health as well. Inclusion's a big one. Think about your diverse workforce, different life stages, cultural backgrounds, neurodiversity. Think about also the way that different people work to make well-being accessible for everybody. So you've got remote workers, shift work patterns as well. Share good practice, share some real life examples of where your well-being strategy has benefited people. Show impact. Maybe you've seen a reduction in absenteeism, retention, more disclosure. How do you measure success and what's next? What are your continuous improvements? Make sure you showcase with some real life examples of how that well-being strategy is brought to life with real life situations.
Some top tips for submitting an inclusion nomination for this year's awards would probably include things like thinking outside of just what it says in the Equality Act, for example, and think wider than that. Think about how you are creating an inclusive culture throughout the organisation. For example, you might want to think about how you embed progression and career progression within the organisation so that there's representation at different levels. So you may want to think about what we call intersectionality, where an individual may have fit into more than one protected characteristic, and it'd be really good to see how you as an organisation support people who maybe fall into those categories. Also, how do you measure impact? It's really important that all the good practice that you're doing, but what does it mean in terms of impact? What kind of metrics do you measure? What do you do with those metrics, and how do you then continuously improve as a result of that? This year at the Charter, we've launched our Be Your Inclusive Code of Practice, and it'll be interesting to see how organisations are embedding work like that within their inclusive practices. We're also interested in how you support and grow and develop people within the organisation who may fall within the LGBT community, but also how you create allyship to enable people to feel secure and to enable people to want to apply for job roles with your organisation. Another important area we'd like to see evidence of is where you're supporting people at different life stages within the organisation. Think about how you put support packages in place for women's menstrual health, for supporting people who are sort of approaching retirement age, as well as thinking about young people. One of the things we talk a lot about at the Charter is psychological safety, and we feel it's really important to embed that within inclusion practices. And really what that means is about making everybody feel safe and able to belong and part of the business. So the key to it really is about embedding inclusion in all of the practices throughout the organisation.
Show that your culture is intentional and genuinely lived by not only leaders but everybody in your workforce. Leaders obviously set the tone, but then we want to know that your people are living and breathing that, whether the leaders are in the room or not. That's something that came up last year with the judges. They were really keen to know that everybody lived those values and behaviours. Inclusion is key, so make sure you show how inclusion is embedded into the culture of your organisation. What's genuinely different because of your culture? So think engagement, collaboration, innovation, well-being, and make sure you include that. If you're a large employer, how do you ensure that that culture is consistent throughout the business? So if you're an employee and you move around different teams, how do you ensure that they're experiencing the same culture within each team? Then show impact. So think about what's genuinely different from the work that you've put in. Show us what good looks like, and show us within challenging times as well what your culture looks like. Showcase your culture through real life stories, not just in the good times, but when things are challenging, how does that culture show up within your business? If you can demonstrate impact, do it using data, measurement tools. How are you measuring culture yourself? Is that through surveys, focus groups, EDI groups? Consider how employee feedback is fed into the culture of your business and making changes where appropriate. If your culture goes beyond your organisational walls, so you're having impact on your communities, partners, supply chains, then include that as well, because that shows that you truly live in your culture as well. And look ahead, culture is evolving, so think about what's your next steps, what does that look like?
The Leader of the Year category is slightly different because the nominations come from the workforce rather than obviously from the leader themselves. And what we're looking for here really is a leader that makes a difference, that makes an impact, and where possible you can paint a picture of how that has happened. So we're looking really for leaders who live the values and behaviours of the business, leaders that are inclusive in their approach and they welcome inclusive engagement within the organisation. Leaders that are committed to continuous improvement and are engaging in the full workforce in order to get there. So it's really about how they use their knowledge and use the experience and use their engagement to actually make inclusive business growth that includes everybody across the board. And it's about how they learn from that and make decisions going forward. We consider a good leader to be somebody who understands everybody within the organisation and who's willing to look at each role and how people do those roles and understand what some of the challenges are across the organisation so that they're able to put themselves in the position of everybody that works there. A good leader will also make everybody feel valued within the business. You may want to include some specifics around an initiative that a leader has led on during the course of the year that's actually had a huge impact on the business and on the workforce. So paint a picture, give us some real life examples of what the leader that you're nominating has done. We want to see the impacts, we want to see what they've brought to the table this year and how that is impacting on continuous improvement and inclusion. To find out a little bit more whilst putting your nomination together, you might want to go and have a look at one of our most recent podcasts with Nick Cooper from Adept. Nick was actually our Leader of the Year last year in 2025, and through the podcast you'll find out some of the reasons why his team nominated him for the award and some of the reasons how he showed up for everybody within the organisation.